Some startups are investable and some are not. Today we're going to look at what makes a startup investable and what completely disqualifies a startup from ever raising any money, so you can avoid those traps.
My name is Heine Zachariasen. I'm the founder of Vivino.
The world's most downloaded wine app.
Vivino changed the billion-dollar wine industry. Now I help other builders change the world. I will call things as I see them, no filter. This is Raw Startup.
This video is about the fundamentals of making a startup investable. It's not about raising money as such, but rather about some rules that you can't break, fundamental rules that investors don't like that you ever break. If you break those rules, there's a very, very good chance that no matter how good your startup is, you'll never raise any money. Obviously, it's not enough not to break the rules. You'll need a lot more to actually raise money. Anyway, here are the 4 rules that you need to have as a startup. You have to be scalable. You have to be protectable, have an unfair advantage. You have to be full-time, and you have to have a healthy cap table. I'll go through all these 4, so let's start with being scalable. First of all, you have to be scalable. What you want to do is build something that can be sold many, many times. Usually an investment is made to invest in something, a piece of software or something they just can keep on selling. Let's say you do consulting. You charge by the hour and you do an amazing job. No matter how you do that, there's still only 24 hours a day, and you can't really scale that. I think consulting is an example of something that's really, really difficult to scale for a small company. On the other hand, you have computer games like Subway Surfers. They built the game once, and people can keep downloading the game. They've had it downloaded 2 billion times by now, so they built the game once, and people can keep downloading without adding any extra cost. They almost have infinite scale. Scalability is fundamentally building something that can be sold again and again. Like a piece of software that you build once but sell 1 million times without adding any extra cost for every unit sold. And being scalable is usually a requirement for getting any money from an investor. So now you're scalable, but you really don't have anything unless you can protect that too. If somebody can build whatever you built in a couple of days, it isn't protectable. It also needs to be protectable, have this unfair advantage that you can keep for some time. No investor will invest $1 million in something if somebody else can copy it in a couple of days. Let's run through a few examples of something that you can protect that is an unfair advantage. First of all, there's software. Software is maybe the most typical thing that a startup has. It can be a game, it can be a cloud service, whatever it is, but it takes some time to build. If somebody wants to copy it, it takes a while, so it is protectable, and it definitely can be an unfair advantage. In that same sphere, you got to make sure that it's something that can't be built too quickly. I've seen people come with some software that they build in a couple of days and say, this is it, it's amazing. Well, maybe it's amazing, but if somebody else can build it in 2 days too, then it isn't protectable and you're competing with them too much. That doesn't work. Then there are obviously patents. That's the core of the idea of patents, to be able to protect. The thing about patents is they can be expensive to get, they can be time consuming to get, generally really, really hard to get. And also patents are not used in all businesses. Most software startups don't use patents that much. It can be used, but it's not that common. So patents are good if applicable. They're definitely something that can protect your unfair advantage, but can't be used in all businesses. Data is an incredible asset. It can be very protectable and an unfair advantage, something you can keep on selling or using. For Vivino, we've spent the last 8 years building data. This just means that our ratings and reviews are so good that nobody else has them. It just makes our product a lot better. So we have all this data. On top of that, we have 30 million users that improve the data, add to the data, and so on. Something that's really, really hard for the competition to get. Brands can obviously be an amazing value for any company. It is very protectable because you own the brand, nobody else can use it, and so on. For startups, it's a little bit harder because it usually takes a while to build a brand before it has real value. And just so we're clear here, a brand is not a logo. A brand is something where people know and want to pay more for their products because it's from that brand. Some people are successful with actually building brands really quickly. It could be celebs that drive it or something like that. An example of that is headphones from Beats. They've really managed to build a brand incredibly quickly, and in the end were acquired by Apple. Another thing is a network of users, especially if you have a network of users that are loyal to you. That can be incredibly protectable because they're feeding into this. The competition might be building a product that's just as good, but since all the users are on this platform, it's really hard to move people over. Just recently, GitHub was acquired by Microsoft for $7.5 billion. And when you think about their role in the market, I'm sure they built a great product, and the competition probably also had a great product. But what made them $7.5 billion worth was just the loyalty from all these users that were already on the platform. It's very protectable, really, really hard to change. That made them worth a lot of money. Now we're getting to the more sensitive stuff here, having a healthy cap table. A cap table is just a list of the shareholders, who owns what, and so on. When you do a startup, you make a lot of mistakes, and it's fine, you'll survive it. But the cap table is the foundation, like who are these owners? And generally, the advice is do not mess with the cap table. You can't make mistakes on the cap table because you just can't go backwards again and fix them. So really, really try to avoid making mistakes on the cap table. Unlike other relationships, getting an investment is like a marriage. The person that comes in there, the investor that comes in there, is there for a long time, and you can't just get rid of that person again. So the biggest mistake, or one of the bigger mistakes on the cap table, is getting a really, really bad investor on the cap table, and you can't get rid of that person again. So be very, very careful with who you get on there, and you might be stuck with that person forever, never be able to get rid of that person again. The other thing that can really mess up a cap table is selling too much of the company too early. If, for instance, the founders have sold more than 50% of the company before an A round, then it can be really, really hard for the company to have room both for having the founders having enough in the company to keep them motivated, but also have room for future rounds to really grow the company. Sometimes it can be very tempting. You want the money into the company, you like this investor, but the investor is asking for too much. You really need to back off from the investor if the investor is asking for, say, 40% of the company. Not only is it too much for a single round, but it also shows that the investor doesn't really know what the investor is doing, because any professional investor knows that taking that much will hurt the founders and hurt the future funding rounds for the company. So generally, of course, avoid bad investors. If you have any doubts when they invest, you should not let them invest. The other thing is don't sell too much each round. I think usually between 10 and 30% of the company in a round is usually okay. You probably want to be closer to 20, but as long as you're within 10 and 30, you should be fine. The last thing is having the founders full time. The investors need to know that they're investing in a company or the founders and they're fully dedicated to this. It's highly unlikely that investors will invest in your half-time project. There has to be someone there who is fully dedicated to this project. If you have those four covered, then at least you won't be disqualified right away. And if you're just starting to build now, look at those four. Try and think how you can avoid making those mistakes, but I guarantee you, you will be disqualified right away. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching Raw Startup. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.